Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about movie crap. I guess this is going to be a new weekly show, and thus, as it's going to be, I thought I'd just establish basically how it works. The first part is just kind of news. I will give you my take on that. Then I will talk about articles I found that I think are cool, some weeks more than others. And then at the end, I will talk about trailers. So if you're looking for a specific thing in box office I count as news, then that's how it will be organized. I try to put the links in the order that I say them. So if you're looking for a particular story, you can move the thing around, or you can watch the whole show. It's up to you. I don't care. Thanks for liking the first one so much, and let's get this going. So I guess one of the bigger stories this week was the Golden Globes, which sort of don't matter at all and sort of do matter with movies. In terms of the Oscar stuff from the Golden Globes, is that La La Land won the most Golden Globes ever for a movie in a single evening, with 7, beating the 2 movies that had that record tied, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Midnight Express, with 6. Now that sounds very impressive, the kind of stat you really want going into an Oscar season, where you can be like, I'm unbeatable, we won more Golden Globes than ever. And then you're like, oh wait, but you said Golden Globes, didn't you? So that's kind of the problem here. Now, I mentioned 2 films that also had the most Golden Globes ever. One of those was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which won Best Picture and actually was a major Oscar winner. The other is Midnight Express, which did not win Best Picture. Got a lot of nominations, but did not win. So it is not exactly a stat that changes things. Other big winners that did not win Best Picture at the Golden Globes: Love Story and A Star Is Born, the one with Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson. So there's a lot of stats that are against it. Other ones that have are like Dr. Zhivago and The Godfather, which won a lot of Oscars. So it doesn't mean what you think it means in terms of the drama side, because La La Land won in Best Musical or Comedy, and no one really thought Ryan Gosling was going to win, which I thought was a little odd. But Best Screenplay, I'm not sure if that's a joke the Golden Globes were playing on all of us, because that's just like Best Screenplay. Like, even people I know who like La La Land were like, Best Screenplay? Like that? Anyway, La La Land obviously is the big favorite right now, since in the drama category, Moonlight won Best Picture, and then Casey Affleck won Best Actor. So that is kind of splits the Manchester by the Sea Moonlight thing. I think Moonlight has a bit more of an edge because it got picture. It didn't get Best Director, which most people thought it would. So that kind of changes things a little bit. Elle picked up Best Foreign Film and Best Actress. So I think that sort of means something for them, which I think is cool because Paul Verhoeven doesn't win a lot of awards. The Golden Globes sort of don't matter. No one really takes them seriously. There's maybe one member of the Hollywood Foreign Press who is also an Oscar voter. There's thousands of Oscar voters. There's like 100 Golden Globe voter people. I don't even think there are 100. So they really don't matter that much. Also, Zootopia won, which seems like a foregone conclusion at this point, although some people are acting like Moana could have won, or Kubo. You're kidding yourselves at this point. Zootopia is going to just win animated feature across the board for everything. The only thing it might lose is like the Annies. Other than that, it's just going to keep winning. Also, I heard Meryl Streep gave a speech or something. I talked last week about how Deadpool actually had a chance at being nominated for Best Picture. As you noticed, it lost at the Golden Globes, which sort of means something, sort of doesn't. And most people thought, like, well, he might win something there, and that's as far as this is going to go. And the WGA thing happened. And now the PGA nominations came out. Now, if you're like, Jim, why are you talking about all these dumb award shows? I don't know really either, but the PGA nominations for Best Picture are a really bigger Oscar indicator on what will be nominated for Best Picture. Most of these will end up getting nominated for Best Picture. There are usually a few that don't, but for the most part, these do get nominated for Best Picture. And Deadpool got on there, so Deadpool is looking more and more likely to get nominated for an Oscar, which, if there's anything more random and bizarre with 2016 than Deadpool being nominated for Best Picture, I don't know what is, other than like Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows being nominated for Best Picture, or Monster Trucks. It looks like Deadpool actually has a shot at being nominated for Best Picture, as it got a PGA for Best Picture, which is a major thing to get. The other films nominated were Arrival, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, La La Land, Lion, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight, which are fairly expected ones. In other Deadpool news, the writers of Deadpool 2 said Deadpool 2 will definitely be a solo Deadpool movie. It won't be like a group team-up movie, which is like, okay, that's interesting, but what about all the Cable stuff? Cable will be there, but it'll still be the Deadpool solo movie, and there'll still be a lot of people in it, which sounds confusing. Are there a lot of cameos? Will it be like Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the first one? No one seems to be able to have a concrete answer on what they're doing, or they're kind of just developing a lot of ideas and they're not exactly sure. But the idea of it being more of a solo film is probably best for that sequel anyway. And in terms of a historic award nomination this week, for the first time ever in the Costume Designers Guild Awards, a animated film was nominated, that being Kubo and the Two Strings was nominated in the category of Excellent in a Fantasy Film. So that's pretty cool. The first time an animated film has ever been nominated. That might be something you might not be interested in necessarily, but it's cool they're willing to nominate something like Kubo, which was aesthetically a very beautiful and amazing movie. And I thought, actually probably, if you think about it, did have really cool costumes. So the box office this weekend was actually a pretty heated one. You had Hidden Figures and Rogue One kind of duking it out for number one. If you looked at the box office on Sunday, most people had Rogue One winning, and Disney actually announced Rogue One was the number one movie of the weekend. But there's a difference between estimates and the actuals. And the actuals for the box office do not come out usually till like later in the afternoon on Monday. So there's probably lots of times that you think a movie is number one on Sunday when it actually sort of isn't, because they are estimates. They don't actually know what movies are going to make on Sunday by 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Hidden Figures took the edge because of the Sunday kind of church-going crowd. There's most people go to a movie, like the most high traffic times for movies on the weekends or are Friday night, Saturday night. But for people who, a church-going crowd, they're going out on Sunday after church. They're going to go, to a restaurant, or they're going to go shopping or something. And Hidden Figures was something that appealed to a big church-going crowd and made a lot of money on Sunday matinees. So that can actually make a big difference. I know a lot of people kind of count that audience out. But Hidden Figures was number one. It was close. Hidden Figures was 22.8 million. Rogue One was just 22 million, 063, I guess. Basically, it was very close. And in addition, I noticed that every film that's been number one since Thanksgiving, with Moana to Rogue One to Hidden Figures, has had a female protagonist, which is a pretty awesome thing, believe it or not. I didn't actually know that until I started looking up the past weekends. The sadder box office news is that A Monster Calls, a film I really, really like, opened at 12th. It had played in limited release. It didn't really do that well. It only made about 2 million. So if you want to see A Monster Calls, and when I talked about it in my review of Monster Calls, and you were like, that sounds really cool, and you would like to see that in theaters, do it right now. It definitely needs your support, but also because they're going to take that shit out of theaters as quickly as possible. Also, La La Land was at 5th this weekend. It is up to 51 million, I believe. People are saying it's likely to cross 100 million. I think that's very true, but we'll see a little more competition as we get into more January and February and see how it plays, but I think it's going to have a lot of legs over this box office season. Also, Rogue One is now at 900 million worldwide. It will likely cross $1 billion shortly, as it has to open more and more worldwide. Rian Johnson talked about episode 8 in USA Today. He talked about how Rey and Luke will relate to each other is a key relationship in episode 8 and a large part of the movie, which we'll understand why Luke's there and what he'll do next, and how Rey and Luke's story has to do with the larger world, which sort of sounds like Empire Strikes Back. So I'm kind of hoping this isn't like a Yoda Luke thing with Luke and Rey, and each of these movies won't be like each of the original trilogy, which I'm starting to fear a little. In probably the most bonkers casting news of why, and I don't understand, Will Smith apparently might headline Tim Burton's live-action Dumbo movie. Who he's going to play, no one seems to know. The question of why is there a Tim Burton live-action Dumbo movie is another one. Will Smith, I guess he might be playing the mouse that's Dumbo's friend. I don't think he'd play Dumbo unless he's trying to get on that Andy Serkis money or something. I don't know. I hope he's not playing one of the crows. Woody Harrelson is going to be doing the Han Solo movie as a mentor to Han Solo. He signed on. It's official. The deal's done, according to the directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I have some reservations about the Han Solo movie, but I really love Phil Lord and Chris Miller. This role was apparently originally offered to Christian Bale, or they were thinking about Christian Bale for this role, according to The Hollywood Reporter, but he passed on it and they went with Woody Harrelson, which also makes me wonder what the hell this role is, and a little interested because I think it'd be cool if Christian Bale played something a little more comic, but he turned it down, and I think Woody Harrelson is a great actor, so that seems to be a good choice. Apparently in an interview with the director of Rogue One, he brings up that a lot of the shots, and the most iconic shot from the trailer of Jyn Erso turning around in the kind of Empire outfit thing was never meant to be in the movie. There was a thing he would do called like kind of art movie sessions where they would just, if they had some moments on set, he would just like do some kind of moody, weird shots with people, which sort of explains some shots in the trailer. And apparently since the dailies were going to the people who were making the trailers, they're like, we love these, and he was like, well, I wasn't, they were just exercises, but sure. Some people really hate that. It's kind of your determination on what a director should do and the kind of movie you're making. Obviously that didn't at all look like it went into the making of the movie or making the movie better, but it was just kind of an interesting exercise to do on set, which I think is cool in a little bit of a way. I think it made people confused about what movie they'd expect based on the trailer, but apparently definitely the shot of Jyn Erso when she turns around and the lights are all behind her and all that stuff, and the shot of Ben Mendelsohn in the kind of control room thing were both done as exercises and were never meant to be in the movie. That doesn't explain all the footage in the trailer that we didn't see in the movie, but it explains some of it. If you've ever wondered what does an editor do on an animated film, there's a really cool video that was posted on Vimeo that explains what an editor on an animated film does and how they're actually more involved and more in the process, and it's a totally different process than editing for a live action film, and it was actually really interesting. I never fully understood what they did. I really didn't know, and this was actually fairly educational. So if you've ever really wanted to know about that, I really highly suggest the video. It's very good, and you learn something about how animated films are made. This is the story that Peter Dinklage could be joining Infinity War as well. Now this might be a little more interesting. We don't actually know what role he's playing, if I'm to speculate within the Marvel Universe, and since it is Infinity War, which is actually the story of Infinity Gauntlet, not the story of Infinity War. They're using the name of Infinity War, but using the story of Infinity Gauntlet, or that's the way it seems at least. I would actually think, and I'm not being offensive, I'm not trying to be a dick about Peter Dinklage or anything, but I actually think they might be trying to cast him as Pip the Troll, who is a famous Marvel character and does fit within that story and does have a history with Thanos and Adam Warlock and everything like that. So it actually makes sense if they were to do that. I'm sure some people might say a wide variety of Marvel characters, but I think that one might actually be the person. No one has said who he's playing. In additional who the fuck else is going to be in Infinity War news, Zoe Saldana and the Guardians of the Galaxy apparently will be in Infinity War. Apparently, I didn't know James Gunn really didn't want them involved in the Marvel Universe, like the continuity wise. He wanted them kind of in their own strange extra thing, which I think is cool. But in addition to that, it came out in a weird report, which a lot of people are doubting, but kind of running with because it's a little strange. Liv Tyler, if you're like, Liv Tyler, when was she in the Marvel movie? She was in The Incredible Hulk when Ed Norton was the Hulk. Apparently she might make an appearance. Now, the guy who played General Ross was in Civil War, so it's not completely out of the blue, but it is a little strange that she would be in Infinity War, but apparently it might happen. Supposedly the source seems a little odd, but it's such an odd thing that you're kind of like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Or they kind of just wrote a bunch of people's names down and went, oh shit, I think we accidentally invited someone. It is kind of like one of the weirder castings because you kind of probably forgot she was even in the Marvel Universe. Martin Scorsese has actually said he is not going to be doing the Frank Sinatra biopic. Supposedly the estate of Frank Sinatra is a little too precious with Frank Sinatra and won't let him really do a nitty-gritty kind of biopic, which was a problem also with the Queen biopic recently with Sacha Baron Cohen complained about that with the other members of Queen trying to make like a family-friendly version of Queen, all sorts of nonsense. And it seems like the estate actually got in the way of Martin Scorsese making a really cool Frank Sinatra movie, which is really disappointing. The Coen brothers are currently developing a thing for Annapurna Television called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This is the first show developed by the Coen brothers. They are credited as executive producers on FX's Fargo, but they have like no role in it whatsoever. But in this one, they are developing it. No one's really sure what The Ballad of Buster Scruggs will be. They just know that they are doing it. People think it might have something to do with westerns or something. No one seems to know. But the interesting thing is it'll be a limited series, but it will narratively have a part that will go to the big screen as well. Apparently it weaves together 6 different storylines. It'll be like an event anthology thing, and it'll be a combined TV and theatrical release. I know Stephen King's Dark Tower was trying to do that. Lionsgate wanted to do something with this thing called the King Killer Chronicle as well. And no one's successfully done this TV movie thing and having a thing go build to something and then have the end be in theaters. But if anyone can do something ambitious and strange like that, the Coen brothers are at least someone who I'd be rooting for to do that. And it sounds interesting. So it's probably an ambitious project that might never actually happen like most of these ideas, but I'm very curious on what they would do with a TV show, specifically with a cool title like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Natalie Portman recently revealed in an interview that when she made the film No Strings Attached, that Ashton Kutcher actually made 3 times more than she did, talking about the wage gap that goes on in Hollywood and kind of in society in general, which is kind of shocking considering at the time, you know, Black Swan was going on, I think when this film was released, and then they made Just Friends. Does anyone remember that? But I think No Strings Attached was the bigger movie. She was an executive producer. That's surprising considering not only was Black Swan going on, but, you know, she was in like a bunch of Star Wars movies, which were pretty big, and she is a bigger name. It might, I guess, be because Ashton Kutcher has more of a name when it comes to romantic comedies, and I don't think Natalie Portman does as much, but you'd think Natalie Portman's probably more famous in more parts of the world than Ashton Kutcher was. I know sometimes if a certain star is more known for a certain genre, you could say that it makes sense that they'd make more. I don't really understand how that happened. Natalie Portman said she didn't really say anything, and she wished she had at the time. All of those interesting gender politics and pay structures in Hollywood are far more interesting than the movie No Strings Attached is, which I watched like 2 months ago while I was cleaning my apartment. And by watched, I mean it was on. I think one of my cats watched and then fell asleep during. But it kind of brings into mind that, one, there's a major wage gap when it comes to gender, and 2, there was a time where people gave Ashton Kutcher a lot of money to be in movies. Ashton Kutcher's just like, anytime you hear about him succeeding, a part of me dies. It is kind of shocking to hear that, especially at the time, but apparently he had more hits at the time, which I don't even think is true. That just seems ridiculous in terms of a lot of things and a lot of invisible weird Hollywood sexism and just plain stupidity. Also, another one from the Hollywood Reporter about how Valerian has a real possibility to end Eurocorp, and how Valerian, which is actually the most expensive movie made outside of the Hollywood system in a foreign country, which was interesting to know. I'm sort of excited for it the same way I was excited for Jupiter Ascending, and that it looks like a bonkers sci-fi movie that will totally bomb, which is probably why they're worried. But apparently Luc Besson really has a lot of passion for it, even though he knows it's like going to be a disaster, but he really wants to make this is like a big dream project for him. So it seems like he both knows this is going to be a financial disaster, but also like this is like his big dream project as well, which is kind of interesting. So you should check that out also. In terms of trailers, there's a really bonkers Roger Corman movie called Death Race 2050, which is a sequel to the original Death Race, not that other Death Race with Jason Statham, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, you should check the trailer out. It's crazy, and Malcolm McDowell is the bad guy in it and stuff. There's also a new Cars 3 trailer, and there's kind of looks like a crappy Cars movie. It's like a technology, the new car has new technology. There was a weird mystery trailer from A24, which no one's sure what it is, but if you look at the YouTube tags, it actually says dystopian film in it, so that's your only clue that I could get that wasn't in the trailer. If you can figure out what the fuck it is, I'd be curious, because I don't know at the time I made this what it is, but it made us all talk about it, and the video is actually just called Untitled, so it might not even be a trailer. It might just be some randomness. I don't know. It got us sort of talking about this thing that we don't know what we're talking about. I hope it's not a mystery box thing. We had 2 trailers that kind of had a similar concept, and it sort of makes me a little cautious, but I find it interesting. After the success of 21 Jump Street, it seems we both have 2 films trying to do the same thing. We have a newer trailer for Baywatch and a trailer for Chips. Both the ideas to make kind of a 21 Jump Street-esque send-up of both of these things. The Baywatch trailer and the Baywatch movie looks a lot more promising. It has a much better cast as The Rock, Zac Efron, and it seems to be be playing more with the show and the format. And Chips, it just seems like two funny guys making super homophobic jokes. It's kind of just using the brand of Chips. I didn't really like the trailer that much, and I didn't think it was that funny, although I love Michael Pena. I hope he becomes a bigger star and actually stars in more movies. He isn't just like the co-star or the supporting guy, because he's a really talented actor. It's interesting that this has become such a big thing. It goes back to like the Brady Bunch movie in the 90s and doing these ironic takes on classic TV shows and updating them. And I think 21 Jump Street was probably the best that could ever be, and it's an interesting way to do that. I think people are more willing to do it with a comedy because people like comedies when they're dumb and not as highly regarded, frankly. And Baywatch and Chips have that already in them. This seems to be a whole new trend this year, and I'm curious how it's going to keep going. Chips was actually delayed a while because of all the negative press with Cops that used to go on, which didn't stop Let's Be Cops, but did stop the Chips movie. It sat on a shelf for like a year, I think. I think the Baywatch movie shows more promise because Baywatch is much more recognizable and something I at least know about, and it has a much better cast and talented people behind it. And Chips just looks like Dax Shepard, who if he jumped off a bridge, I wouldn't care, and Michael Pena doing a lot of unfunny things. When you're making a Baywatch movie and you have a great cast and you have funny jokes in it, it's going to work. But if you're going to make just a send-up of a big TV show and not have anything more than just like, hey, it's the show but goofy, it's not going to work necessarily. I mean, we talk about the Brady Bunch movie, but we don't really talk about the Beverly Hills Billies and all the other rip-offs of the Brady Bunch movie concept. Baywatch hopefully will be the better example, and Chips seems to be, one of those forgettable Beverly Hillbillies thing. If Baywatch does well and Chips does well, we'll probably get to see a lot more of these, and this is something that's really coming down the pipe. And since they both got released this week, I thought I'd talk about it for a little bit. The other trailer is Raw, which is a French cannibal coming-of-age movie, which looks really cool and I've heard a lot about, and the trailer kind of gave me all that promise that I really wanted from it, and I'm actually very excited for it. It looks like a cool, interesting horror film, and it looks gorgeous as well, so check that out. It's called Raw. So that looks like that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed another edition of Movie Crap. If you'd like to comment about any of the various things I talked about, or if there's anything you'd like me to talk about next time, I've done, since the last Movie Crap, there was my November-December 2016 video, which is just a bunch of videos I shot around those months, a review of Jackie. I've been working on my top 10 of 2016 video, which will be out Saturday, and don't worry, the next video will be my review of Monster Trucks. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video and you like what's going on at this channel, then subscribe if you would like to.